Welcome to the Flourish Academy podcast. My name is Heather Lautinen, and I'm joined by my good friend and co-host, Mara Chick. We believe everyone can be successful in any endeavor they pursue, whether it's personal or professional. By constantly nourishing your mind reading books, you can impart wisdom and tactics into your life and business. In this podcast, we will be discussing the books that have impacted us and share actionable strategies at the end of each episode to help you succeed.
Essentially, we're reading, so you don't have to. How awesome of us to do that for you.
I think it's great. I think it's a service. It's like NPR, public service.
Yeah. Okay. Today we are continuing our discussion on Write It Down, Make It Happen, Knowing What You Want and Getting It by Henriette and Klauser. It's Klauser.
Yes, it's Klauser.
It's Klauser, but I like to say it fancy. Okay, Heather, we're going to dive straight into the book, into chapter 7.
Yeah.
What do you got for us?
Okay, we are on chapter 7, and we are on page 110. So, as we mentioned in a previous episode, this book is filled with phenomenal stories. You must pick it up and read the stories to drive the point home. It's really worth it for sure. But so she's talking about a woman named Sydney, and she's talking about lists. And she said, Sydney rereads her list of 5 characteristics and looks around herself in disbelief. She got everything on her list and then some. There's a smile in her voice, then a loud laugh as she exults. I wrote it down. That's really how I did it. Sydney is convinced that writing that list made all the difference. Writing a list gets it out of your head. Heads can be dark swamps. The conversations, the constant chatter, whatever you want to call it, keep interfering. Writing a list gets it out of the swamp and onto paper. You can see a list in black and white, and then it's real. You are the biggest
I'm
list
a
advocate.
list. I love lists. And we talked about this a lot with Eat That Frog by Brian Tracy. Lists are very important to me. I work from lists all the time. I can't just keep things in my head knowing I have to do that, I have to do that, I have to do that. I have to write a list with a little box next to it, and I check it off when it's done, and I know what I'm doing. Every day there's a list.
Otherwise, too messy.
It's true. And she says here, writing a list is a way of clearing your head. Nothing can happen when you're generalized and safe because nothing changes. I added that emphasis.
Emphasis mine. Yeah.
Emphasis
right.
mine. So yeah, lists are important.
Lists are important.
Can't get anything done without a list. I can't even go to the grocery store without a list.
I mean, most people don't.
I will forget things.
Right. And it has to be very, very specific.
I do. When you do your grocery list, do you do it by like sections of the store?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, to make it easier. Yeah.
Okay.
And in chapter 8, she starts talking about focusing on the outcome. This is page 113. Life is like a labyrinth, and the path to successful completion of your goal may be filled, probably will be filled, with blind alleys and dead ends. How do you keep from losing heart? By focusing on the desired outcome. And she goes on to say, this blew my mind. I highlighted it and I said, wow. She said, I sometimes cheat a little when I'm doing a maze puzzle. I do it backward. Starting from the exit, I work my way back to the entrance point. For some reason, it's easier that way. You can use the same approach in getting your goals. Start from the destination and then figure out how to get there. So I've always done that. Since I was a small child working on mazes, I have always done them backwards. So when I read this, I was like, what? That's awesome.
Well, look, I was a genius when I was young.
I didn't even need a PhD. I just did the mazes backwards. But of course, I never made the connection that I was looking at the desired outcome and I was starting there and working my way backward. But when she explains it that way, I just thought that was phenomenal.
That's pretty awesome.
Yeah, I love that.
Okay, we're going to move to page 125 in chapter 9. And she says, being near water, especially moving water, gets ideas to flow. Now, this hit me when I was reading this, like back in my college days. I went to school in upstate New York at a small private university called Alfred University. And there was this little brook and stream that came down, and it was water. There were rocks all around, and I used to go down there all the time and sit there and write my journal. Like, and I think that started my love of like waterfalls and listening to running water. Like, it's so calming to me just to sit there and listen. The rain, I could listen to the rain all day. So I feel like water is like where it's at. And you even said like people get ideas in the shower most often because of water, it's just flowing, and like the release of...
It's something about, she explains this, and there's science behind the negative ions, something about water, negative ions, and I don't pretend to understand all of that science, but I did buy some type of ionizer for my bedroom that is supposed to put negative ions. I'm not sure. I know. What
hokey science are you
I know. I found it on Amazon, and I put it in. I think I'm more creative. No, I don't know. How could you prove that?
Yeah.
How could you prove that? But I do know, for me, and I know this is true for a lot of other people, you always seem to get these ideas in the shower. And like you said, by the brook, because of that noise. That's why people have water features in their homes, because it sparks some sort of creativity. And
why do you think when you go into every single spa ever, there's water trickling down?
okay, now here's a question. I wonder if what the science would say, is it the sound or something with the negative ions? Meaning, could you have a sound app on your phone that sounds like water? Would it produce the same results of having an actual water feature, say, in your office?
I don't know. My noise app has...
Yeah,
Let's
right.
research that.
We should.
Okay.
That would be interesting.
I'll expect a report back.
Okay. Okay, we're going to move on to chapter 10. We are cruising through this book. On page 132, I love this. She starts explaining about polychromatic time. And I had not heard this explained this way, although I understood the concept, which is polychromatic time means that time seems to pass differently based on what you're doing and how involved you are. When you are working at something without any distraction, totally focused, hours may pass, and it seems like a few minutes. You live in eternity and in a moment simultaneously. Have you ever had that happen?
Yeah, you know where it happened for me? When we went to the saltwater sensory deprivation tanks. What seemed like, and it's totally like, and it's not, we're not working and focused on something, so it's a little different, but when you're immersed in this black, complete blackness, literally what I thought was like minutes was an hour.
Time was weird
It
in
was
there.
weird.
Yeah.
It was like the music went off and you're like, okay, the first like few minutes are done. And then silence, and then the music started again. It was...
I couldn't tell. I was disoriented, actually, with regards to time.
Yeah.
You know what we should do in the show notes is link to the video we took of that experience.
Oh,
I
yes,
have
we
it.
should.
I have
Yes. Okay, I'll link to that.
Yeah, we videoed it. It was very interesting.
You know, but I know when I'm focused on something, like I remember writing a guide that I was putting together for my clients, like literally 5 hours went by and I thought it was like 45 minutes. It was crazy to me.
Which is awesome.
It's great.
When that happens. Okay, what about the opposite? Have you ever been in a situation where you think, oh my goodness, is this day ever going to end?
Oh, probably more than I want to
Yeah,
admit.
right,
I'm just,
right.
you know, it's, again, going back to Brian Tracy's book that we went through. It's hard when you want to procrastinate on something.
Right.
You're like, oh my gosh.
It's going to take forever. Yeah.
She says here, I develop a magnificent obsession knowing that a drop here, a drop there soon becomes a flood. I love that. I love that because we just pick away at it.
Yep.
Drop, drop, drop. Okay. And then on page 135, Henriette says, letting people know what you want to let people know what you're looking to gain. Once you are clear about what you want, it seems to me the universe provides. You attract what you need to you. Oh, that's one reason I do the lists and affirmations every morning. It's not coincidence.
You attract it to you.
Yeah, we're attracting it. We're putting it out in the universe. We want this, and it's going to respond back to us. I'm a firm believer in that.
Because we've seen it over and over again.
We have constant
We've
examples.
seen it in our own lives. We've seen it with others. So, yeah, and you know what? Listen to this. I'm an engineer by trade. I learned to be skeptical of things like this without, proper experiments and proof and data. And I have learned over the years that sometimes you're not always going to understand why or how it works, but believe that it does.
It just does.
Yeah, it does. And I've seen it. It has challenged my engineering brain.
I know.
And
because
it's been
we want
amazing.
some logic to be to it, and there is no logic.
I want it to make sense.
Yeah.
I need a formula. Give me a formula. I can execute it. And there really is.
Tell me what to do. A,
right.
B, C, D, and then I'll get this.
Equals. Yeah.
No, not here, Heather.
No.
Sorry.
But just write it down, essentially. It's, there is a formula. It's just easier than I would have thought. Just write it down.
Write it down.
Jumping into chapter 11 on page 141, it's called Being Committed. And she says, until one is committed, there is hesitancy. The moment one definitely commits oneself, then providence moves too. All sorts of things occur to help one that would never otherwise have occurred. A whole stream of events raising in one's favor, unforeseen incidences, and meetings and material assistance which no man could have dreamed would have come his way. You have to believe, you have to commit, and then things start to move, and it's unbelievably awesome. I thought that was great.
Thanks.
Yeah, I thought that was great. And then jumping ahead to page 147, I like this because she said, why write? Why write it down? And then she said the answer is commitment. An engineer uses his imagination to design something with the idea of bringing it to reality. When you fantasize, there's no commitment to creating it. Whereas when you imagine something with a personal commitment, it gets built. The distinction is commitment. What writing it down did was it got me out of fantasy to the level of commitment.
Yeah, and I mean, we touched on this again in Brian Tracy's book, Eat That Frog. Like, it's not a dream or a hope. When you write it down, you're making it a reality.
It's a commitment and you believe in it, and then things start to happen.
Yeah. Make it happen. Right? Like the book says.
Literally.
Duh.
Literally says.
Hello, Mara. Is anyone in there today?
Write it down, make it happen. Back to the book. In chapter 12, page 149, I love this. She says, you can have more than one goal at a time and let the success of one be the foundation for another. A bonus awaits you when you conquer a fear or master a skill. Often you get two for the price of one. As a growth you make in one area of your life shows up as a strength in another. Now, the reason I like this is because they're not necessarily tied together. So you might get really good at baking cookies, and then all of a sudden your marketing strategy takes off. They seem completely unrelated, but the truth is success and growth in one area will lead to growth and success in another area. You just have to understand that it's all interconnected.
You know, this makes me think of one of our mastermind participants who conquered a fear by doing a live video and then went and had the best newborn session of her life.
Very good point. They seem totally unrelated.
They're not related, but they are, because you worked through something and it released your brain from that fear, and boom, it opened you up to a whole new level.
And she came back and did another live video and said, you won't believe what just happened. I had an amazing session, and I think it was because I did the live video. She even recognized it. That was phenomenal.
That was great.
I think we should write that down as just something, as a story to share, how that they can connect. I had forgot about that.
Yeah.
That was really good.
Yeah, we should be writing our own book.
Okay?
Brian and Henriette and all you guys, we're coming for you now.
Yeah, look out.
Look out. Here comes
These
Heather and Mara. Amateur authors.
Okay, so we are still in chapter 12. I am going to jump to page 156, excuse me. Okay, she's continuing on that same concept. She's talking about creating a mantra. Try for another accomplishment in a totally different arena, that will boost your confidence. You might just get two or more for the price of one. So she shares this story, which I love. It's about a girl who learned to ride a unicycle. Pick up the book and read the story. It's good. But her mantra was, a girl who can ride a unicycle knows she has options and can learn things. So I wrote in this book that I'm going to create a mantra. And actually, I used this in my business and life boot camp. I made every participant create a mantra. And I had a structure or a formula for it, because that's the way I work. And it says, a girl who could blank could do anything. A girl who could blank.
I remember what mine was.
Okay, but hang on a second.
Sorry.
Because you were having a challenge at one point when you were leaving your corporate job and making the transition to being an entrepreneur, because it got harder before it got easier. And you were having a particularly bad day, and we were talking on the phone, and you were emotional. And I said,
"Oh, me emotional? Ha! I think you have the wrong person."
Yeah, are you sure?
I don't think so, but thank you.
So I said, can you call me right now? So you called me, and I said, where are you? And you said, I'm in my office. And I said, okay, could you go downstairs for me?
Yeah.
And so you went downstairs. You have this beautiful old Victorian home, 3 stories, beautiful, big, built at the turn of the century, beautiful home. So I made you walk, and it was raining that day. And I said to you, I need you to go outside. And you were, I believe, a little irritated with me. And I said, just go outside.
Imagine that.
Yeah. I need you to go outside, stand on your sidewalk and look up at I said, are you outside? Yes. I'm getting wet, Heather. Okay, yeah, it's raining, so what? Look at your house. I said, who built that house? Who bought that house? And you said, I did. I said, when did you buy that house? Tell everyone when you bought that house. How old were you when you bought that house?
Like a week before my 30th birthday.
And who helped you buy that house?
Nobody.
So at 29, you bought this old, big, beautiful Victorian home all on your own. You're working this corporate job where you're making amazing money. Okay, it's stressful, but you're making good money. And I said to you, listen, I want you to say this. A girl who could buy a house on her own prior to the age of 30 can do anything. And I want you to say it. And I want you to say it over and over. And you did. Do you remember that?
I do remember that. I was having a really bad time then. But yeah, when you asked me to go outside, I was like, what the heck is she doing to me now? Why am I friends with her?
I can't believe this.
But sometimes, I have to do what she says or she'll show up at my house.
I've done that.
And she has done that, too.
I've done that, yeah.
And she'll ring the doorbell and I won't answer. And then she'll call me. She's like, I know you're in there.
And I'm here, so
you gotta come out.
But then we took that experience and we put it into the Business and Life Boot Camp, and everybody had to develop a mantra. So I would say, what is the thing that you're most proud of in your life, or the hardest thing you've ever accomplished that you can honestly say, wow, I did that? Because a girl who can do that
can do anything.
Can do anything.
So my mantra was, a girl who can leave a 6-figure job to pursue her passion in photography can do anything. That's hard to walk away from money and stability. What's your mantra?
I look at my homestead, what we built in the middle of the woods, seemingly impossible. We moved my parents in. We have chickens and animals, and I love it so much. And I say, a girl who could build a homestead can do anything. Because financially on paper, it didn't make sense. Physically, due to the topography of the land, it didn't make sense. I wanted to build in the middle of the woods. Yet here we are. We are podcasting from the middle of the woods. And I say, a girl who could do that could do anything. Because if not me, then who? And if not now, then when? And I could do anything. So we want you to develop your mantra. Think about one of the hardest things you've ever done. Think about it. You did that. And then own it. Be proud of it. You can do that. Okay, so why couldn't you do anything else? Because if that, then what else? What else is possible? So I said to you, okay, if you were able to do that, and I think what we were getting at was, if you were able to buy that house on your own at 29, then why couldn't you leave a 6-figure job?
Yeah.
And then you did.
I was worried, and then I did. And now my mantra changed.
And you have a new mantra because you did it.
But yeah, that was a pretty powerful,
That's awesome.
When you did that for me, I was like, wow, okay, that's true. Because when you're one little person and you're looking up at this big house, you're like, wow, I did do this. And I actually found recently my address change card that I sent out to everybody, or maybe my housewarming party card. And there was me standing in front of the sold sign, typical,
right.
Like, oh, I bought a new house. And I looked at myself and I'm like, man, I did that, because the whole house was behind me, and I was like, wow, like, I did that.
You did that, and you were young. I mean, on your own. How brave, how courageous. It's incredible.
And everyone was telling me, that house is too big for you, that house is too big for you, and I was like, shut up, shut up, shut up. Because I knew I knew exactly, like, this was for me. And now, and even now I see, I have a studio in my home, so it's just like, it has been laid out for me, and I believe that God designed this perfectly for me, and I'm right where I need to be. But yeah, I found that recently, and I just was amazed at myself. Like, yeah, I did that. And I didn't have any man. I didn't. I was not with anybody. Like, I just I saved a crap ton of money.
Very good. Very good.
I corrected myself. I was going to curse, but no.
Yeah. This is a family podcast.
I saved all that money and I paid cash. It's like not for the house, but like my down payment, that was all my money.
You did that. So I think we fail to recognize our own accomplishments and celebrate them and look at them. So I wanted you to write it down, and I wanted you to look at it every day. A girl who could do this could do anything. And it goes back to this story about the girl who learned how to ride a unicycle in the book. Read it. It's fantastic. But you need to think about what you accomplished and own it.
Yeah, I think all we see in front of us is like the struggle or the challenge. And it's time you have to take a step back and look at the whole picture. Like, wow, I've done stuff before. I can do it again.
I've done hard stuff. I actually have that written in one of my journals. It says, I can do hard things. Or I wrote it on my whiteboard too.
Yeah.
I can do
I
hard
can do
things.
hard things.
Yeah, because you start to feel the struggle or overwhelmed by things that you don't
Right.
know or that you have to overcome. So why not focus on what you have done in the past, and then how can I do more in the future? Because if I was
Yes.
able to do that, then I'm certainly able to do other things. But it's not going to be
Yes.
easy. It's going to be hard.
It's going to be hard. It gets harder before it gets easier.
Yes,
so that's
for
the
sure.
truth. Okay, Heather, wrapping up today's episode, do you want to tell everyone how they can support this awesome, fabulous, wonderful, free podcast?
It's free. It's free. Go to Flourish.Academy and grab the show notes, especially from this episode, because Mara will have the formula for the mantra we want you to create. If you are feeling brave, and I know that you are, could you please comment with your mantra so that we can celebrate with
yes.
you, please?
I'd love to know what your kind of
That would
mantras
be
are.
fantastic. And make sure you subscribe on iTunes, Stitcher, Google Play. You can also follow us at flourishacademy.tv if you like to see the video version. And if you like this episode, all of the episodes I'm sure that you enjoy, please share it with your friends so we can impact more people. And pick up this book.
Yeah, this is a great book.
This is a great book. We have it linked in
You
the
know
show
what?
notes.
I think we think all the books are great. Maybe we should review a book that we don't think is great.
Wow. That's
What?
an interesting concept.
That's an interesting concept. Well, because I'm still holding back on extreme ownership because I don't want to
Okay,
read that book.
you didn't love it. So, and I did.
Well, I only read I could not get through the first couple of chapters.
Well, okay. Reread what you
No.
can, but don't get through the whole thing, and we'll talk about it. I'll help you. That's what
No.
we do here.
We help people?
Yeah.
I'm going to help you, help me, help you. Okay.
That's what you're going to do.
Okay. All
That's
right.
it.
I'll try it.
Okay, so make sure you use that Amazon link to pick up this book. You'll definitely want to grab it. And that's our affiliate link. So while you are at Amazon, why don't you go ahead and do some more shopping?
Yeah.
It helps us. It
helps
offsets.
us just a little bit.
Just a little bit.
All right, everyone. Thanks so much for listening. We hope you're finding our podcast useful. We love sharing all this information with you. So we will catch you next time on the Flourish Academy podcast.